Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Grev, and welcome once again to another episode of the Rip Roaring Reds podcast. We are one day removed from a massive victory over Man City, and I was joined on that day and now with Jace. How are we doing, Jace?
Yes, mate. I'm really good. It's a great day out yesterday. Sun was shining. We're back playing. It's the start of the season now. We've got a trophy in the bag. Brilliant. Can't wait. Can't wait. Bring on the season.
What is there not to like, right? What is there not to like?
Yeah, absolutely. How are you doing today?
Yeah, you know what? Me and Jace just came back from playing football, so we've cooled down, we've calmed down from that game. I got absolutely rinsed by Jason probably enough times, and the whole team, to be honest. So I'd much rather be watching Arsenal than playing football right now, I think.
I've only just changed out the away shirt.
Yeah, I mean that shirt though, the one that you're wearing now, what a shirt that is.
Oh,
it's just special. Yeah, it's just special.
Yeah.
Right, we got lots to talk about on today's episode. We're going to be going through all the talking points of the big Manchester City game and our big victory over them, as well as lots of other talking points throughout the parking lot as well. So let us kick off that intro music, and then we'll get straight into it.
Saka. Saka! That is a diamond of a goal! It's Bergkamp. That's magnificent!
This is my club. Fucking love this football club.
Henry. What a goal! Gabriel Martinelli! He's scoring for Arsenal!
Right. There is loads to talk about, as we've already said, Jace, and we're going to start off like we always do with our Rip Roaring review. I'm going to hand it over to you first. What's your big, bold talking point of the week?
So I'm going straight in. We can do it. We know we can now do it. It was only the Community Shield, but a trophy is a trophy, and it was a competitive game. We went toe-to-toe. We didn't look out of place. We didn't look like we didn't deserve to be there. You know, at the end of the day, we came second in the league last year. They won everything else. There has to be a game. We deserved our place in that game. There was a trophy up for grabs, and we took it. So I'm incredibly happy with the performance. Yeah, sure, there's some things we need to brush up on, but we can do it. I was at the game two years ago when we were at the Emirates and we lost 2-1. We went toe-to-toe with them that day. We lost 2-1. Ref, in my opinion, ruled us, lost that game for us. We went toe-to-toe with them then. We went toe-to-toe with them yesterday with a decent squad, the squad that we did want playing City last season, not when we were missing Saliba and Thomas Partey. So, yep, that's my wrong review. We can do it, and we know we can do it now. So, let's do it this season.
I love the enthusiasm. I love that you've got the vigor and the bit between your teeth. So I'm going to go similar. Actually, you called it right at the end there a little bit. When we played them before, we didn't have Saliba, we didn't have Thomas Partey, and for me, my kind of review at the moment is that we look much more reassuring at the back than we ever have during any of the preseason games that we've kind of been part of so far. It's likely that 4 is probably going to start in the league. I'd imagine. I'd be hard pushed, and we're going to talk about it later, to think that Zinchenko gets his place straight back after a pretty decent performance by Jurrien Timber. But I would say that, you know, that centre-back pairing, absolutely fantastic, absolutely bossed that game. Did usual Ben White things. If you've seen the picture of him getting right up in Grealish's face, Benny Blanco is just doing his usual, just getting in people's heads. I'm all here for it. I love his attitude. I love the fact that he's just like winding people up for fun. Great. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just super excited to see that back line looking super assured, and also just seeing options as well. So even with, you know, if we don't necessarily look so assured in some games, we've got plenty of options to kind of change that up and make something different out of that back line as well. So, yeah, dead excited about what that back line brings us and where it kind of puts us.
It's strong. It's a strong back line. Gabriel, Ben White's quality. Gabriel, Saliba, they're intimidating centre-back pairing. And then when you come up, and then we'll see if Zinni gets his place back. We'll talk about it later. But Timber, and we'll come on to talk about Timber as well. But he was so good. He's been good all pre-season. But yeah, so much about
I
him.
think the biggest thing about him as well, though. Actually, no, I'm going to save it all because there's going to be so much to talk about on there. Let's get straight into Arsenal have shithoused their way to this trophy. Let's be honest. That goal. We did not deserve to. Well, I mean, we deserved to score a goal. I'm not denying we didn't deserve to score a goal. The way it came about maybe is a bit different. But talk me through. We're going to talk about the game in general. What was your feeling, your vibe around the whole game? How do you think we played, Jason? What do you think we deserve to win the trophy?
I think, yeah, screw it. Why not? It was a fair, even game. I think. I mean, we were in the ground. I'd say City dominated the first 20 minutes. Then we came into our own. We dominated till half time. We should have. City didn't have clear goal scoring opportunities in the first 20 minutes, I don't think. Maybe that one loose ball from Partey and Rodri put it wide. But then apart from that, we'll come on to talk about Havertz, but he had the clear opportunities to score. The second half, again, it was pretty dull. Then they scored a Palmer scored a beautiful goal.
It was a peachy hit one.
From where we were sitting when that went, we were right behind it, and that I mean, I think you were there was a slight clap from you, if I think I'm right.
It was a good flight. It was a good flight. You can't deny it was a great goal.
It was a great goal. And Ramsdale was getting nowhere near it from the angle we were at. So yeah, that was a game that wasn't against the run of play. Like, it was pretty even, but it kind of came out in a little bit. It wasn't against the run of play, but it did come out of nowhere a little bit, I felt. Couple of a little bit off the pace for us, and they score, but we did not give up. We didn't also change our game. We didn't change our game or the way we played. We kept to how Arteta wants us to play. We kept putting the ball wide. We kept bringing Saka and Ben White especially into play, trying to make opportunities from that side. We've ended up forcing a corner, and then, as you say, shithoused our way to a trophy because it was a crap goal, right? Let's be honest.
I think it was going pretty wide from Trossard's original kind of effort.
Yeah, but we'll take it, and then I'll talk a little bit about the pens in a minute. But yeah, I'd say it's a fairly even game. Both teams had their chances. It went to pens, up for grabs. Yeah, screw it. We deserve to win it. Why not? We didn't get outplayed.
No, I'd agree with you that we definitely didn't get outplayed.
Yeah, what was your take on it?
I think for me, the biggest thing that came out of that game that I think I actually mentioned it to you a couple of times, the amount of patience and with restraint that we showed during that game, that I think compared to the previous times when we've played Man City was really telling. There was times when they had the ball at Ortega's feet, and we would usually get sucker punched on those occasions where we just want to press. We play the way Mikel Arteta wants us to play, and we press, but we don't press in numbers, or we press intermittently or like isolated, and we get cut through the middle. And we've seen it a lot in pre-season, actually, of us getting carved open through the middle. So I kind of expected that to happen, and we were really good at holding our gameplay, waiting for the right moment, pouncing in numbers. Our press was excellent yesterday. It was probably one of the best presses I've seen us done for a while against, let's be clear, an amazing team, right? Even if they aren't at full strength through preseason, even if they're not starting De Bruyne, they are the best team in the world currently. And thus, we had to step up our game. And I think we truly did. So for me, we deserve to win it. There was a spell in the first half. I think you mentioned it. Maybe they had the better of the first 15 minutes or so. There was a 20, maybe less than that, probably about a 7 to 10 minute spell where we just held the ball. We passed it between the lines. If it was closed, we would come back. We would go between the defenders. We would try it again. We would switch it. We were doing a lot of that and just retaining the ball and looking for openings and opportunities. And yes, the two that did come to Havertz, and we'll talk about that a bit later, didn't come off. But we kept at it. We kept playing. Like you say, we were persistent. We kept driving towards it, and we weren't flustered. I think that was one thing that we've seen before, when it's not coming off and we get a bit panicky and wonder how to do it. And we just waited. We played our game, and it did come eventually. Granted, it came in the 100th minute, but if it comes, it comes. You can't complain. So like you, deserve it.
Yeah, no, I think you mentioned the kind of way we played, and I was in the gym earlier, and one of my mates said to me, he was like, I watched it on the telly, and he was like, you were sitting so deep. Like in the first half he watched, and you said Partey and Rice were sitting so deep, they were so close to the back four. That didn't spring out to me when we were in the ground watching it. But what I would say is that we're very calculated with C. Very, very calculated. Like, if we give them an opportunity, they'll tear us to shreds. And you were right with the press. We didn't overcommit with the press. The press was good. The press was there when it was needed. We didn't overcommit. And as a result, there was a lot of times in the first half, so that first 20 minutes, we weren't going full blast. We weren't going full steam ahead and making ourselves vulnerable and putting ourselves in vulnerable positions. We kept it calm. We kept the game plan, and they couldn't break us down. Fair enough. We struggled to break them down at times as well, but it's the sign of two teams. It's a sign that we're getting closer to their level. Our signings, our tactical play, we're getting there, and I was really happy with that.
Would you say, we were listening to TalkSport on the way back, and there was one of the callers on there was talking a lot about, well, I'm not going to reference the Tottenham fan that thought they were going to win the league, because that was pretty comical in itself. Or the Man United fan who also thought they were going to win the league, he got laughed off the call as well. It was the Man City fan who was asked about, they were missing Gundogan, they're missing Mahrez, two very key players to there, and in the middle they had Kovacic. And what do you think about that kind of replacement and that in that system?
I don't get that one. I rate Jorginho over Kovacic, but I have a bias because I've seen Jorginho play for Arsenal and I haven't watched Kovacic closely for Chelsea. What I do remember of Kovacic is he getting schooled a bit by Granit Xhaka in an FA Cup final. I'm sure he's had good performances, but I've not seen them because I don't watch Chelsea that often. Mm-hmm. What I saw yesterday was he wasn't up to the standards of Gundogan. He's not going to be getting the goals that Gundogan was getting. I don't think you're not going to get a replacement there. He's not going to be running into the edge of the box and doing the kind of tapping from the edge of the box like you see Odegaard do. Because Gundogan used to do that for them. He used to get a lot of goals for them. He was always in there. And from what I watched, Odegaard, he roasted him. Odegaard roasted him of a few turns and just took him out of the game. So I don't think. I'm sure he needs to take time to learn how Pep wants to play, and they wouldn't have bought him if they didn't think that they could do what they wanted with him. So I'm sure he'll be a very good player for them. But I don't see it will take him time to get up to speed, and I don't see him as an instant replacement. And I'm sure they'll bring a winger in. I don't see them not bringing a Mahrez replacement in. I don't see that. So they will buy what they need to buy. So yeah,
they're quite astute in the market. That's one thing about Man City that you do feel they're never really linked with a lot of players. It just kind of happens. Maybe it's just because we follow Arsenal, you see it more often. Exactly, but they seem to do quite astute business. Like you look at some of the players that they've signed over the years, and they're not like world renowned, but they turn into world class players. And even the ones that you know about, like look at Ake, you wouldn't necessarily put him in the bracket of like top class centre backs, but he's done such an unreal job for them.
Well, they take time to develop their centre backs as well, right? Like Ake came, he was there for 1 or 2 seasons, and it was like, oh, he's not getting games, and then he just suddenly. Ping, he's there.
Well, I said that about Grealish. Grealish is similar. Like he was not playing for like an entire year, and then last season really came into his own.
So do you reckon that's Calvin Phillips then as well?
I don't know. When I've seen him play, he looks like he's put on a bit of timber in the summer. He looks like he's not very fast, which is usually what he wants those kind of players to do, like and have an engine. So have like generally they can go 90 minutes and not break a sweat. Gundogan, no matter his age, he was bombing. Same as Bernardo Silva. You look at Bernardo Silva, who played he's playing right wing. He's probably 32, 33, somewhere in that region, I think. And he's doing the job.
Yeah.
I just can't see it.
Maybe not. Maybe not. So you mentioned at the beginning that we're looking more assured at the back. So talk to me a little bit about this defense.
I mean, I do think, and there was one thing that kind of stood out to me recently. So obviously Haaland has now not scored in, I think, 6 or 7 games. He was pocketed by William Saliba, who I would argue is one of, if not the best young centre-back in the world currently. I think we talked about the ESPN 100. I can't remember exactly where he placed. He was 2 or 3, I think, right, Jace? Number 4.
Number 4.
One off. I was one off. I was close. But he absolutely pocketed him yesterday. He was, I think I said to you in the ground, I was like, I don't think he's had more than 4 touches. I think he eventually had 5, and he had an XG of nothing. He had an XG of 0. This is not like Wilfred Zaha or Ollie Watkins or someone else that we're talking about, right? That's like, you can go missing in certain games. This is Erling Haaland. He broke all kinds of records last season. This is not a nothing player. And every opportunity that he had against our centre-back pairing, he was getting nowhere. And it's one game, and I was so interested in seeing it because, like I said, we didn't get this opportunity to look at this back with Saliba playing against Erling Haaland, because that's when he was going through that injury last season and we knew he wasn't coming back. We was all like, that's it. We knew we weren't really going to be able to compete because we knew Rob Holding was going to come in and not be able. We've seen what Rob Holding can do against Erling Haaland, and it's not a good watch. No one wants to see that again. So I think defensively, those two absolutely unreal. We've talked before on pods where Gabriel might have a mistake in him, didn't make anything as such, looked really well assured, really well kind of gelled. Those two have a really good partnership together. So I'm all in for those two, and I even still think that even when they're not, I think Kiwior can come into that pairing and also do a job. He looked really assured in the previous game, so I don't worry about that either. And I think to go beyond that, we've obviously got Ramsdale. What do you think about Ramsdale? Because there's been a lot of talk about him, particularly on the last pod as well.
Yeah, impressive game by Ramsdale, to be honest. I think Arteta was asked in his interview at the end whether he felt that the transfer talk speculation. Well, it's not. I think my understanding is it's going to be a done deal. It's not going to be speculation much longer. But whether the talk would have made an impact on his performance, would have spurred him on. Arteta's perspective was, I hope not. Like that should be the expectation anyway, that you have to fight for your place and consistently perform. So he kind of brushed it off, but I think it has had an impact on him because that was a level above what we've seen in pre-season. In pre-season, we've been talking about confidence. We've been slightly nervous as fans, I think. We've backed him, but we have been nervous because we all love Ramsdale. He's an absolute top-class human, and we want to back him. He's, we love an English keeper. David Seaman is a prime example. Bob Wilson. So we want to back him. We want him to be on new safe hands. He's young. He's got longevity at the club. The way he, presents himself. So to see the performance he put in yesterday was great. Watching back on the highlights and just recording what we saw on the ground, there were 2 very, very good saves. One of the ones was the one at the near post where he got a hand to it.
Is that one from the corner?
I watched that back. Brilliant save. Reflexes. Awesome. Because he basically saved us. Like we could have been 2-0 down easy.
And then it's game over right from then. That's killed the game at that point, you would say.
And you could say he got lucky with the Foden one, right? Because it went through his legs and it came off the kind of the back of his heel and went wide, but he was there. So, it's a save. And then the penalty save against Rodri. Oh, I bloody love that. I absolutely love that. Fun. Firstly, I can't stand Rodri. 2 reasons for context. What he did to Odegaard in the Spain versus Norway game, where that was intentional. He didn't get booked. That really peed me off. So that's one reason I don't like Rodri. And then the shithousing he did when they did win 2-1, when we absolutely annihilated them and we somehow lost 2-1. The ref gave it to them and he went and celebrated right in front of us. So he loves to wind Arsenal fans up, and yeah, he wound me up, and so I don't like him.
Obviously
so to see, yeah, it did. Oh well, it's football, right? But Ramsdale's penalty save, brilliant. Brilliant to get down. He read it, great save. So yeah, Ramsdale, brilliant performance. Put his place, put his marker down that it's his jersey. You got to take it off him. So very happy with that performance, top class performance, exactly what we want from a first choice goalkeeper.
Yeah, I would say on the Ramsdale side of things as well. And I was thinking about this yesterday a bit more. That for me, although we kind of thought that we had a bit of a downturn on Ramsdale, so we needed to bring another keeper to come in and compete. Who's to say that Turner didn't ask to leave? He's playing for the United States. There's a World Cup coming up in their home country. Yeah. He's going to want more playing time. And Turner's getting that deal where he'll likely just go into that Forest team as their first choice. And who's to say that those dominoes just didn't fall, together at the same time? And thus there's an opportunity there for us to sign a keeper we've always wanted, because we've always had our eyes on David Raya. And the opportunity arose, and it's a good price. That price is a good price.
Yeah, it's quite interesting as well. Ramsdale's going to fight for his place, that's clear. And Raya, the mentality to want to come into Arsenal knowing that we have Ramsdale, that's great. I'm really happy with it. Like, I think, as I said, someone will win the war at the end of the season. Someone's going to be unhappy at the end of it, but that's fine. That's okay. You want that because he's a top class goalkeeper as well. So it's going to breed performances, hopefully. Have you rewatched any of the penalties back?
I watched some of the highlights, yeah.
So what did you I'm interested in what you thought of Vieira's finish after some of your comments about Fabio.
It was right in the roof, right? It was right in the roof.
Well, I'd say top bins.
Top corner, but yeah. I mean, I still don't believe he's it. It was a good penalty. I'm not denying it wasn't a good penalty, and I think you said it on the last podcast. He only scores bangers, right? So he's obviously got it in his locker. But I'm still, if he was in our starting 11 against Man City in a game of that caliber in the league, I'd be worried. I can't say that. One thing I would say, and we've not mentioned this, and it's not even on our notes, I don't think. Saka had a relatively poor game by his standards.
Quiet,
he was really quiet, and usually, and you look at all of our preseason, he has been the constant throughout. He has been, other than the game, like I say, he was replaced with Fabio Vieira, and it was obvious he was replaced with Fabio Vieira because it was chalk and cheese. So I would worry, but I'm not disputing the fact that it was a banger of a goal.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I thought it was a good level of maturity from him. He missed against United, and there was a lot of negativity off the back of that. I think we've all been a little bit critical of his preseason performances and still feeling like he's not coming on. So hopefully that does worlds of good for his confidence in regards to going into the season. I hope he can kick on. We'll see. But I also think ESR for me, it was automatically already jumped ahead of him in the pecking order. So
he looked really good when he came on. He looked really good.
Yeah. Well, he's looked good all preseason. He looked good in the Euros. He just needs fitness. He was we got it. I think we said this in a couple of podcasts ago. Like, he was in our starting lineup 2 years ago. He was carrying us. We were along with Saka 2 years ago in the Chelsea game, and then we went on a winning streak. And it was him and Saka that carried us. We forget how good he was. I think everyone forgets how good he was, like other fans included. No one thinks about him. If he can get back to his form now and gets over his injury worries, he'll be in starting lineup. There's no way you can keep him out. But we'll see. It's going to be a long road for him to get to that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we talked about the back four, and there was one name that we didn't discuss that's missing, and it's going down. I'm yelling Timber. Tell me, Jace, what did you think about his overall performance? Is he going to replace our favourite Ukrainian at left back?
Oh, I don't know how to answer this question. I've got a love for Zinny, right? So, Zinny's had no preseason. So, is he going to replace him? I don't know yet, honestly. I think it's Timber's fit. So, Zinny's had no preseason. So, it's obvious that Timber's going to have the shirt going in and it's going to be his to lose. And Zinny's got to prove to get his place back. But let's talk about Timber's performance. Oh, Jesus Christ, what a performance. He just doesn't, every game, every time he has touched that pitch this preseason, it's like he's Premier League ready already. Just he's there. Like I did not anticipate a player who's played in the, I'm going to say Dutch league because I'll murder the name of their league.
Eredivisie, is that right?
That's it. That's it. Yep.
Nailed it.
But yeah, he's so strong. The thing I loved was just you didn't like. There was times when he had the ball, Man City were putting the press on him, and you're like, is he going left? Is he going right? Is he going left? Oh, he's going right. Like you just didn't know where he was going. It was just taking him left, right, and he just had him in his pocket. A bit like Willie Saliba had Haaland in his pockets. Timber was awesome. Yeah, go on. You talk to me about Timber because I know you wanted to talk about Timber.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that like you say, the shimmy, the drop of the shoulder for me, he did it. I think I said it to you. Like he did it like 4 times, and you think sometimes he's one of those players maybe that you know it's coming, you can read it, you know it's going to happen, and you can do nothing about it. It's literally, you're powerless to stop it. I think he was up against Kyle Walker quite often down that side and embarrassed him. I think to the point where Guardiola was saying in the media afterwards he was very disappointed in the Kyle Walker performance. It was
gone anyway.
Yeah, or maybe that's what it is. But like for me, to the point of Zinny, like I got a soft spot for Zinny. I think I said it on a previous chat that we've had. We are a better team with him in it. Because of the way that he plays, and Timber does play like that inverted role, probably not as aggressively or as he played more like a Xhaka a lot of the time, driving forward and kind of collecting the ball and driving. So that was really cool to see. And it's such a weird dynamic to think that you've got a natural left back on the bench in Kieran Tierney, and he is not starting, and you've got a brand new player at the club in his unnatural position, roasting players for fun. Like, come up to him, you're going to get slapped, basically, and that's what Timber did the whole game. And I am like I say, the starting berth for him is there. I don't think Zinny comes in because, like you say, maybe the minutes aren't there, but also like you can't take away from what he has done so far. I know it's all preseason. I know we're probably getting way ahead of ourselves, but why not? Let's do it. Timber for me has got that. Well, exactly. If we're not going to do it now, when are we going to do it? We're certainly not going to do it after winning 38 games on the bounce, right? So Timber for me is definitely a starter at the moment. Whether or not he keeps that place, I suppose it depends on how quickly Zinchenko gets back to fitness. But it's what a riches to have. In terms of what choices we have at defensive positions, something we couldn't have said last year.
Yeah, I know. And we actually haven't talked about Ben White. Or just to add in him going forwards on the right. There was, when he played that ball into Havertz in the box and a little bit burst of pace, some of the balls he's able to play in going forwards. He's still the right back. So if we've got to play Tim, if we've got to fit Timber in as well, then he's going left back. And that back four is the back four starting the season. I think Mikel figured out the back four he wanted last year and he stuck with it from preseason through and it worked well for us. So that might be the same thing again. But so yeah, Ben White, excellent performance too, just to add. But also Tomiyasu, Tierney, Kivior. I love Rob, but Rob's not going to be playing for us anymore. So you're right, we have an embarrassment of riches We'll talk about it in the car park, but I saw Man City put Laporte up for sale and we might like him. So that's an interesting one as well. Like, we keep adding to it. I think Tierney's going to struggle for game time if we have Timber and Zinchenko and we have Ben White on the right. Unless Tomiyasu is going to be back up for the right. And then
you still got Cedric Suarez, remember, as well.
Oh, and that's Cedric Suarez. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Jesus Christ. Sorry, I don't like Cedric Suarez for anyone who doesn't.
You didn't really mention or made it out. Like, it wasn't obvious either, Jace. So I'm glad you mentioned it.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm a Hector Bellerin fan through and through. So
yeah.
Hector lost his place in the team. Yeah. So solid at the back. Really happy with that.
Okay.
Cool. Shall we move on?
Right. Yeah, we're going to move on to probably what is going to be your favourite topic of tonight's show, which is Kai Havertz was the number 9 yesterday. Surprise, maybe I think there's maybe a 50-50 split in the camps of, is Eddie going to play as the 9? Is Havertz going to play as the 9? I think I'd read somewhere that it was quite obvious. We knew what Jesus is going to do as a 9 against Man City. We know what Eddie's going to do as a 9 against Man City. We did not know what Kai Havertz was going to do as the number 9 against Man City. Were you impressed with what he did? You feel a bit vindicated, I obviously realised, Jace, because you've been calling for this. So it's your stage. You've got the microphone. What you got to say?
Everyone said they didn't know what he was going to do against Man City, but they knew what Eddie and Jesus was going to do. I knew what Havertz was going to do against Man City. I knew what Havertz was going to do against Man City because you could tell. It was obvious. He's a very tall player, and we have been lacking a tall centre forward since Giroud. I said it last podcast. I didn't know how well he would play, but I knew what he was going to be able to do, and he did it well. Did it exceptionally well for your first game in against Man City. It wasn't like you're playing it against Bournemouth or, I don't know, Sheffield United or whoever. Did against City. So there's two parts to it. And I want to get your perspective on it. But the two parts I'll say, there's the work that we needed him to play in that position, and then there's the goal scoring. I want to get your thoughts, particularly on the goal scoring part. You're laughing already. I know we listened to Talk Sport in the car on the way home, and well, that is what it is. But they were winding Arsenal fans up all the time about that. But what we need in a striker up front, particularly in transitional play, is if we're going to knock the ball forward, it's the ability to be able to bring the ball down, fight the defender off, hold the ball, turn the ball, play it to one of the wingers through the channels. He was doing that. He was winning balls. He was turning defenders. He won a couple of fouls from turning defenders where they wanted to make a transitional foul to stop the counter-attack. It's absolutely what we need, is an alternative to Jesus. And so, yeah, I'm really happy to see that. Let's now talk about his finishing. I'm not going to talk about that. You talk about the finishing. What did you think of the goal-scoring parts?
So, I mean, I think I think that's because we disagree a little bit. Like, I get what you're saying, and I fully understand it. And he did bring a different element to the game. It's not too indifferent to Jesus, right? In terms of what he does, he can bring the ball down. He can bring other players into it. His hold-up play was really, really good. Maybe, obviously, Jesus is quite small. His center of gravity is really low. He's good turn of pace, but maybe can't do that job that Havertz does. But, you know, I, like an old school person, want my 9s to score goals. And he didn't score goals, right? And I know that, like you say, he's being thrown into the fire pit here because he's not playing Sheffield United or Bournemouth. He's playing Man City, the best defence in the league by far. He's playing against 2 very astute centre-backs. He did find positions. He found opportunity. We were left wanting, admittedly, and I think they're not easy chances either. They're not very clear cut. I don't quite know what his XG was, but it probably wasn't super high. I don't think it was probably even over 1. I'd imagine he was quite low on that scale. And he kind of took the opportunities that he had. He snapped at the first one a little bit and just took what he could from it. I think the second one is more he should be finishing and probably should be scoring that one. But, yeah, you know, I mean, yeah, he had a good game for me, and he played all right. But like I say, I want my nines to score goals. He didn't score a goal. I think I said to you before the start of the game when we saw that lineup, the only thing that is going to save Havertz this game is a goal. No matter how he plays and what he does, admittedly, he needs to score a goal because that's what your striker's there to do. But I would say this: when we were listening to TalkSport, they're obviously saying, "Is he the answer?" And I think you said it. Like, that's not the question. Because you're right. Like, we have Nketiah, we have Balogun, we have Jesus. Admittedly, some of those might not be there by the time the transfer window closes, but we have options. It's not like we don't have options. And when we've seen Eddie come on, he can add a different dynamic to how we play going forward. He's much more direct. He will take on a man. We're more narrow, and so all those options are good. There's not many clubs that have a out and out striker that does their business. Like Man United only just signed one. They didn't have one. Who did Chelsea have? They just signed two. Like nobody has Man City are really the only ones that have that. And he's a monster. He's a robot. Like you can't, there's nothing to compare there. It's just silly to even attempt it. So I think, like you say, we're going to spread around our goals much more around the team. And the same we did last season. But I'm not all in yet.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you can't play Jesus, who do you want up front? Based on performances you've seen.
Yeah. I've flip-flopped a lot over these podcasts in the preseason because we had a lot of discussion about Eddie versus Balogun and what's going to happen. Like Balogun's gone. I think we're just trying to drive the price up. The fact that he's not even getting a look in at all, like he's definitely going to get an option like we're going to talk about later. I still, Eddie, he's a hail ender from the academy. He can score. I want to see that. But Eddie for me. I'm not going to sit on the fence. I'm going to say it.
So I think certain games Havertz, certain games Eddie, and it depends on who we're playing. That's it. I don't have faith in 100. That's the wrong word, actually. I'm not as confident with Eddie against a Man City. I just think we're too small as a front three with Eddie up front against Man City. Even maybe with Jesus against Man City. I think even with Jesus, I think we're a little bit because they've got a big back four. They play basically centre backs all the way along the back, and that's what we're trying to do now as well, almost. And I feel that we're not physically adapt enough, and so I was quite pleased to see Havertz in there. I used to remember, I keep referring to Giroud a load, but he used to cause Man City problems. He used to get headers in, with the odd one goal we'd get against Man City when we lose 3-1 or 4-1 would be like a Giroud scoring a header. So, we need some physicality against them. So I think it depends on the game. On the other hand, Eddie did a great job last year, and there were certain games where he's absolutely perfectly fine as a starting forward. So. Yeah, it's got to be the game.
I would say we saw it a couple of times in one of the preseason games where that lofted ball over the top to Havertz at the back post and a header. We've never really played like that for a lot of seasons because, like you say, we've never really had the option. Giroud was the last one that we could do that with. And like you say, maybe there's a dynamism to that change in play that we can now go to. We don't have to play plan A and we don't have a plan B. We now have something in the back pocket that we can utilize. So a bit more like Swiss Army knife, I feel now, which is great. You know what I mean? Like we're going to be able to go to the campsite and just choose the different tool for the different job. And Havertz can offer that. So I'm not denying that he can do the job. I don't know. I just feel more confident right now with Eddie.
If we think about what we struggle with, low block's what we struggle with. Why? Well, we don't have anyone we can play it over the top two and someone to bring it down and then play it through the channels in a counter style attack. Because we try and pass it through and then we get to a block. Like that's how so this is a different alternative, and it's just good to, as you say, to have it in our, not putting a pun, arsenal.
Hey. Right. Well, that's I'm hoping you got enough off your chest on the Havertz as the 9, Jace. We're going to go on to another subject, which was the ref, Rodri and Cars, because it felt to me that the ref, who I believe was Stuart Atwell, I could be wrong, was out to, well, it felt to me out to ruin the game. Yeah, do fact check me, Jason, because I could get it wrong. But it felt like there was I don't know, like maybe I'm blinded by my red tinted glasses. But there felt to me that there was something in that game that was trying to ruin the opportunity, the occasion, particularly in the first kind of half an hour to 40 minutes. I wonder what did you see, Jace, from that? Is there anything that you felt was untoward or indifferent to you?
So first of all, you were correct. It was Stuart Atwell.
Hey, good.
Just fact check that. What did I feel about the refereeing? When I've watched the highlights back since, like, they didn't focus on the challenges because it's focusing on the gameplay and the pens. So those kind of tactical fouls and things that have happened in the game they were missing, shall we say, from the highlights reel. So I think when you see a TV view, I think it can change your opinion from what you see in the ground. What we saw in the ground, we were incredibly just pissed off. I mean, let's be honest. Not to put it like, well, yeah, just to be completely open about it. It just felt unfair. Party's challenge from where we were in the ground, given the context, we haven't seen an up view replay. We don't get replays in the ground. That didn't look like anything, and he got yellow carded within very, very early on. Had to play the whole game with a yellow card. But as soon as that, after that, Man City challenge after challenge after challenge after challenge were not dealt with in the same manner, and that for me felt unfair. Again, I'm going to come with a caveat. I didn't see those challenges in detail. I didn't see them up front. I wasn't close enough. I didn't see the TV replay to judge and say, oh, he's done it right there. But, you know, the fans in the stadium certainly made their opinions felt about the referee, about Howard Webb when they put Howard Webb on the screen sitting in the stands. I think we felt like that performance was unfair in the ground. So I don't think it was a great performance from the ref. Again, I haven't seen the replay of why he booked Arteta either. I thought Arteta has just got pissed off because Man City had gotten away with so many challenges and we'd been booked. And that's what I thought I thought that was why he'd been booked, because he'd probably, Mikel wasn't shy about sticking up for his team. But my understanding was it was the new rules that they've implemented around dissent, I think, that may have caused him to be booked as a result of it. But I don't know. You said you have a different view on the Arteta booking, right? You've been given other info. Is that correct?
No, I would say from what I'd seen is obviously he's in the ear of the fourth official quite significantly, and like you said, there was multiple challenges in the middle of the park, particularly by Rodri, who was escaping yellow cards left, right, and centre. There was an occasion, I think, where Bernardo Silva kicked away the ball, eventually got a yellow card for the second or third time of asking. And Arteta's obviously asking the question, and he's a very emotional individual, as we full well know, a very heated individual. He's always on the precipice of that technical area, almost to the point where he's actually on the pitch. We've seen enough times where he gets involved with players. I think he even had a bit of a shoving match with De Bruyne in back at the Emirates. So it happens, right? And like you say, maybe they're cracking down on this a lot more with the kind of rules and the dissent. One friend texted me saying he was embarrassed by Arteta's behaviour, and I'm here for it. I would hate Arteta to stop being the person that he is, and breeding that behaviour. I would admit that there are occasions where, and we've seen it with Xhaka against Liverpool last season, you don't want to like the touch paper and kind of start kicking all of that off again, because it can get the other rival fans kind of back into the game. I mean, let me just sidetrack a little bit. Man City's fans yesterday is an absolutely abysmal fan base. Not one noise were made. I think they cheered when they scored, and there was nothing else the entirety of that game. It was embarrassing.
That's always the case with Man City. That's always the case with Man City. We've been to so many games at Emirates. We've been to 3 games against Man City at Wembley. We've been to a semi-final FA Cup. I think. Have we been to yeah, we have. We've been to League Cup final where we got smashed, and that game. Every single game, at Wembley. One, they don't fill their allocation. There's spare seats everywhere. They never fill their allocation, and they're quiet the whole game. Like,
I mean,
that's just their fan base.
I know it is, but it's a long way to come, and I get some of that. But
they didn't care about the Champions League until last year. They never turned up for Champions League games.
Yeah, it is a weird one, and I have massively sidetracked. I just thought I'd to call it out. So
Sorry,
yeah, Arteta. No, I know we're both getting riled up. Arteta obviously got the card. I don't think he deserved it. I don't think any of our players really deserved it. The fact that Thomas Partey's was probably within the first 15 minutes or so. Like, I don't think, and one of the best things about that is usually you see players just not play the same game once they're on that card because they know that anything untoward, you're going to be pulled up on it and it's going to change the game entirely. So you don't want to risk those challenges. But Partey did play his game. He's not a nasty, vindictive kind of player either. And a lot of it, like you say, is really tactical or kind of strategic fouls. They're not kind of like lunges or anything like that. I just don't think it, like you say, it was balanced. It was not balanced in that game at all. Yeah. We were coming off with a lot worse of the decisions and it just felt unfair, like you say.
Yeah, I wouldn't be bothered about it if City had been booked as well, because we were committing fouls. Fine. Like, you know, Arteta is kind of schooled in the dark arts of Guardiola in that perspective. Transitional tactical fouls. We do it. We get booked for it. We take a booking. We do that. It's in our game. But we get it from Man City.
He obviously hasn't learned well enough yet then. We're not getting them.
Or I don't know, Rodri has some kind of, I don't know, hypnotizing the referees or something because he gets away with bloody murder. Sorry, he just does. I don't know how he doesn't get. Sorry, I'm not going to go down the Rodri route.
No, I don't. You would have said your disdain for him, but I agree with you. I think the fact that he can just get away. Usually, you get players in the middle of the park. They're always going to pick up cards. Xhaka was one. He made a name for himself. He didn't actually get that many red cards, but he just had an association with bookings just because of his style of play and his aggressiveness and the position that he played in. Because you're always there to break up like that transition, like you say. That's part of the job of that player. Just maddening, absolutely maddening. Like you say, I'd be fine with it if it was balanced. Like I say, most of the cards we deserve to get. Some of them we didn't. The Partey one for sure, I don't think we did. But most of them, fine, I can agree with. But it just wasn't the same. It wasn't reciprocated.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Cool.
That's all of the game. Car park time. We're going to go into parking lot. I think, Jason, you want to start. You got some talking points that you want to get over?
Yeah. Well, it's just wanted your take on some of the news that I've seen today, non-Community Shield based news. So just seen Marquinhos to Nantes. I think that it might be a perm move, unconfirmed, but they've inquired potentially with a buyback clause. Wanted your perspective. What's your view on that?
He's not really had an opportunity. And he's still relatively raw and relatively young. I wouldn't even say I know what his ceiling is. You know, like some players, you'd be like, oh, they've got a much higher ceiling than you can see right now, and you know they're going to fit into that mold eventually. I'm just not too sure he ever will. So I think and I can't imagine the price is going to be that major either. Single digits, I'd imagine.
12 million euro, I think I saw, of a 22 million euro buyback clause.
Yeah, so I mean, it really depends. And like you say, it's very rare that even when a player is lighting Ligue 1 on fire, that they translate exceptionally well to the Premier League, at least in recent terms, at least for us, from what we've seen. You know, we've got Pepe as an example.
I'm content to buy strikers from Ligue 1, as I've mentioned in previous podcasts. I'm not content to buy wingers from Ligue 1. Pepe, Jurrien. I'm not quite. If he goes to the Ligue 1 on a perm, he ain't coming back to. He might come back to the Premier League, but I don't know if he's coming back to us.
Not to us. Yeah, I mean, I'd take it, to be honest. I don't think he fits in. We don't need. You know, we're not gonna. He's not gonna replace Saka, and not to say that even Nelson is, but Nelson's better than Marquinhos.
So you're banking.
Yeah,
banking.
Yeah, I'll take that.
So I read one tweet and I kind of agreed with it, which was, sorry, I should really call out who it was, but I can't remember who said it. Which was, why would we not just loan him out for a year and see how he performs? Because what are we going to lose?
How long's he got left on his deal? Is it long?
I don't know. Don't know his contract length.
Because that's the dependent thing, isn't it? It's like, I know.
We only signed him,
it could be a
signed
short
him last year, and he came on the Europa League, and he was pretty strong in the Europa League. He scored a good goal in the game against Zurich away. So, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, you don't buy a player. I mean, I guess I'm assuming we're making a profit on him. So maybe that's the case. Maybe we're doing that, getting in talent. Maybe that's one of the things we're doing to make money. So, is to get young talent in from the South America and sell it for a profit. I mean, we seem to be doing that a little bit with a couple of players from America, like Trusty, Turner. No, we're only making £1 million profit on Turner by the looks of it. That move to Forest, but yeah, maybe.
But I would say one thing I've noted, like Arteta is ruthless, absolutely ruthless. He is an elite manager who is speed running his way to the Premier League. I've never seen anything like it, where he's trying to get to the pinnacle so quickly by the changes he's making. And if someone is not fitting in with the system or the mold, then they're gone. And that could be a case here.
I mean, his net spend's building up, but then it's still not as much as Ten Hag's. You've seen the stats on United.
Yeah, I think, was it 600 or something they spent in 18 months that he's been there? And the funniest thing for me is that everyone's calling for Arteta's head like this season. If he doesn't win it this season, what's your excuse then? And I'm kind of like, I can think along the same terms like that sometimes. He's spent a lot of money. He's got a lot. We came second last year. I know, trust the process. I'm with you, right? But I can see where people come from. But you can see it, right? You can see where people come from. It's like, he spent that much money. We came second. You've kind of really got to, probably has to win something. Whatever that is. All
right. Yes, he has to win. No, I don't think he does. If we get to the final, if we finish second in the league and get to the final and get to a couple of finals and don't win it, look at Liverpool in the season before last. They lost the FA Cup final. They lost.
They had the treble, the quadruple one, right? I think.
Yeah, and they didn't get anything. I think, or maybe they got a League Cup. I can't remember.
Bear in mind they had won the league and the Champions League beforehand, Jay. So it's like,
Yeah, but no one sacked Klopp. Like my point is, you could say that about Arteta, but would Tottenham fans, if they can reflect back, would have Spurs fans sacked Pochettino? No, they wanted him back. I know plenty of Spurs fans that wanted Pochettino back. They wouldn't have sacked Pochettino. Would we sack Arteta? No, because who are we going to get in to replace him? Who are you going to bring in to replace him?
And I would also, it is. And I would also say that, generally speaking, only one team are going to win it. The other 19 teams in the league, they're not winning it either. It's not a case of saying, well, Arsenal failed because they didn't win it. And I think there was a really good, I think it was an NFL player that got challenged to go, oh, how did you reflect on the failure of the season? And he was basically like, what do you mean failure? Like, not winning something doesn't mean something is a failure. There is progress, there is growth, there is learning. In business as in sport, feedback and the ability to grow and learn and adapt and kind of, progress through your career is exactly the same in football. Just because you don't necessarily win something doesn't mean you haven't learned and grown and progressed.
Yeah. And there's a gamble, right? You take Arteta, you get rid of Arteta and his coaching staff. You take away that stability from the club. You then got all of his players in who he bought, who he's made the decisions on, who he's convinced to join. And you have to bring in another coach who's got to change a way of playing. Then he's going to go, well, do the squad. Does the squad fit his way of playing? You got to go through a whole process again. And I don't think that is the way to go. I don't think we will sack Arteta even if we don't win anything. I don't want to sack Arteta even if we don't win anything. I trust in the process. I think it's a long game. If we get to ultimately as well, let's be honest, we've got the Cronkies as owners. They're not idiots. They're in it to make some form of money. That's why they do sporting ventures. If we're getting second in the Premier League again and pushing City all the way, if we're getting to a final, like the Champions League final, pushing far, that means we're cementing ourselves as one of the top clubs in the world if we aren't already in that top 5 teams in the world. We are based on value or whatever it is, squad value. So we're cementing ourselves in that place. What does that mean? It means we're making bank. That's what it means. It means we're making money. Are they sacking Arteta? No. Because they've done this investment to reap the investment. They're not stupid, so they're not gonna get rid of that stability that they've invested into to get.
Yeah, I mean, we've got elite IP in this whole team, second youngest team in the league last season, best young coach in the world. Like you say, there's relatively, if you're there or thereabouts, you're going to keep it. Wow, this parking lot's gone deep. But
That's good.
I know, but to go back to the original point, where's the head of Ten Hag? Where are people calling for his head? I do feel that there's a lot more rope that he's been given with regards to the changes that he's making. You look at some of the signings that they've made. I mean, they are your Antony's. Like, get out the door, honestly.
Well, we've had a few signings, right? You can say Fabio Vieira is a questionable one. We've had some signings that Arteta's brought in are going to have come and gone. Tavares, actually, we still own Tavares. Where's he going?
Lokonga. Yeah, Lokonga.
And Sammy Lokonga as well, right? However, those were signings that cost under 15 million. They didn't spend 100 million on Antony. That's a different.
Yeah, and where situation. Where are they now? Is the question. They're not in our starting 11. They're not even on our bench. We are actively doing to move them on, right? We don't want them in the club.
Yeah, we're being ruthless, and I think there are plenty. It's quite interesting. I mean, it is interesting on any fans, rival fans. They all have different opinions, and some will be there to real grind the axe with your rival clubs. So they'll grind the axe of Arsenal, and then some are like, "Oh, quite like to be like Arsenal. They're doing it right." And I've seen a few people really with United fans saying kind of like what Arsenal are doing is pretty much what United are trying to replicate. The difference is they're trying to do it a bit quicker. And I think by spending more money, they probably think they're trying to do it quicker. But you've got to give Ten Hag time as well. He's going through a process. Like, he's 2 years behind Mikel Arteta. This is Mikel's 4th season. He's 2 years behind Mikel Arteta. The difference is they're trying to buy it faster, but that doesn't work like that. And also, I don't think all of their buys are making sense. That guy phoned into TalkSport yesterday, made us piss ourselves laughing because he basically said that Højlund is going to score 20 plus goals, even maybe outscore Haaland this year. It's like, guys, he scored 9 goals for Atalanta in Serie A. He was like, yeah, but in 20 games, and he only had 20 appearances. So he's not even done a full season Serie A. So he spent 75 million pounds on a guy that's not even like done a full season in Serie A. Like, I mean, that's a gamble, and that takes us on to our next subject. I'm going to move us along. Balogun. How much is Balogun worth? He scored 21 goals in the French league. He competed with Mbappe and Messi for the top scorer in that league. I'm not saying he's worth 75 million, just to be clear. But if you're comparing market rates and standards that are being set, how much is he worth and how much should we be selling him for? And I say ask that because I think Inter have started the bidding at 35 million. We've politely told them to try again.
Do one.
Monaco have registered interest. West Ham have registered interest, and RC Lens have registered interest too. But apparently Balogun has basically told the management he wants to go to Inter. So how much are we selling him for, Grev?
Well, this is the thing. I think that's why we've rebuffed any kind of interest or offers that we've had, because we're looking at the external market and going, look, you see him over there, 70 million. We're like, he's better than him, as you've just said. So why are we're not like bickering over 35 million? You give us the money, or you're not having him. And I think it'll get done at 50. I think 50 is probably a reasonable amount to expect for a player with his contract left, with his track record and his caliber. Whether it gets done or not I think it will. It just might take a little bit longer. I think Arsenal are going to stay firm on the money that they want. Like I said in a few pods ago, we're awful at selling, absolutely atrocious at selling. We just can't seem to get the value out of our players. And this feels like the first one in a long time that we actually have like some money in it, that we could get out of it. This is the first player for Oxlade-Chamberlain was the last one I can remember that we got a good value for. Like when they paid 35 million, I think Liverpool for Oxlade, I was like, wow, that is a silly amount of money to pay for him. I mean, he's won a Premier League medal, so I can't really and a Champions League.
And a Champions League.
Yeah, so I mean, good for him. Can't really say very much on it.
Yeah,
exactly. He definitely won more with them than he did with us. So, but that's the intent. I think 50 million will get done. I think he's definitely gone. I do not like his mentality at all. I am not interested in him staying anymore. I would have entertained the idea before a lot of the nonsense that I've kind of seen with he's kind of like he said, he wants certain clubs. He wants to be told to just let me go, kind of thing. Like he's being held hostage. It's like, you signed the contract, mate. You're with this club. Stay and fight for your place, and don't whinge and moan about it in the media. Get your head down. And he hasn't. So but yeah, I'm sure. So one of the out of that list that you went through, the one thing I will say, jog on West Ham. After all of the stuff that we went through with Declan Rice, you're absolutely laughing that we're doing any business with you whatsoever. You can absolutely walk down the road to some other London club.
We are doing business with them if they want to pay market rate, because they've got the money to pay market rate.
I don't know where they got the money from though. Can you tell me? I'm not too sure.
I don't know. Some club in North London, I think.
Yeah. They can have 70 million. I'll take 70 million for Balogun from West Ham. Anything else, you can jog on.
So I had one last question in the car park. There's one last topic I'll put in there. You can give us a short, sharp answer. Apparently, Man City told Laporte he can go. You taking him? Because apparently we're interested.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think so. I think we've got a lot of outs to go before we even consider any more incomings. And I think we do have quite a few different versatile options at centre-back. It's not to say you can't do a job. So if we end up getting some good offers for some of those, Tomiyasu, Cedric Suarez, Rob Holding, those kind of, if all of those go, then we might have a gap. I just don't see us having a gap right now. But you seem interested in it, Jace.
I'm intrigued.
Your eyes are lighting up. I can tell it. Yeah.
I'm intrigued. So Rob Holding's Cedric Suarez, they're not even in the equation. Like they're gone already. Like they're not in our squad. So if you look at the fill-ins, you got Tomiyasu and Ben White. Technically, you could consider right backs. You got Tierney, Zinchenko, and Timber left backs. Timber can also play right back, and then you got Gabriel, Saliba, and Kivior. Now Timber's also supposedly could be a centre back, so you could fill him in there.
As Tomiyasu, I think as well.
He's never played there for Arsenal.
Can he not?
He's played left centre. He plays left centre back for Japan, but he's never played there for Arsenal.
Okay.
I wouldn't play him there. And personally, from what I've seen, I don't. My personal observation is I wouldn't have necessarily the confidence to put him in that position. So here's my gut feel. I keep saying it every podcast. I think we might sell Tomiyasu. I think we could sell Tomiyasu, have Tierney, because I don't think Tierney's going anywhere. I think that's quite clear now. Tierney and Zinni at left back, Timber and White at right back, and then have a back four of Gabriel, Laporte. Sorry, four centre backs: Gabriel, Laporte, Saliba, and Kivior. The only then thing I say is I don't know why Laporte would join us if he wants first team football, because he's lost his first team place at City. I don't think he's getting in over Gabriel and Saliba. So I could see how he'd fit, and it does interest me. It's better strength in depth, but I think he'd have the same problem he has at City. You ain't getting him a squad.
Yeah, so, I think I'd agree with you. But maybe it's a competition thing. Maybe say I want to go and fight for my place. David Raya, like you say, has done the same thing. So it's not to say it's out of the question. Interesting, like you say, but I'm still, with all of the stuff happening at the back, I'm just still not sure what's going to happen. There's a lot of change that needs to happen, a lot of outgoings before we even consider what incomings make sense to us.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Right.
Anything for
that
you?
Has been... No, I mean, you had so many subjects, and I think we've had an absolutely rip-roaring podcast. Excuse the pun. And we've gone an hour and 5 minutes. I think me and Jay started this off going, right, 45 minutes, that'll be a good show. And as always, we found lots to talk about, lots of interesting subjects, and lots of Arsenal goodness to sink our teeth into. So that is going to be it for me. And I think that's been an absolutely amazing episode. So thank you very much, Jace. Like I said, to anybody that watches us on YouTube, please do give us a like and a subscribe if you can. And Jace, if you're listening to it, what should they do?
Should leave us a review and ask us questions.
Yeah,
no
catch
less
us
than
on
a
the
5-star
socials on
review. Is
Twitter
that right?
or no less than a 5-star. No 4s, no 3s. I don't want to see them. Not interested in them. 5s only in this world. Any questions on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok? Send them our way. We'll try our best if any do come in to answer them on our next podcast, which I think we're going to be doing our Premier League predictions later on this week. Is that right, Jace? If we get the time to do it.
Yeah, I think we got to get that in for the first game of the season.
Yeah, that would be our aim because we can't spoil the surprise once we smash Nottingham Forest on Saturday. So yeah, cool. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, everybody. I hope everybody. Yeah, well, I mean, it's not wishful thinking, Jace. It's going to be done. Hopefully, everybody has an enjoyable rest of their evening, and thank you very much for joining us on the Rip Roaring Reds podcast.
Cool. Cheers, guys. Thank you.